Induction to Myselfi Girish Krishna Kumar. I am studying 3rd BSc IoT. Today I am going to present about Henry Cavendish, an English chemist and physicist who lived from 1731 to 1810. He was famous for discovering hydrogen, studying the composition of water and air, and measuring the density of the Earth. Who was Henry Cavendish? Henry Cavendish was one of the greatest experimental scientists of the 18th century. He worked in both chemistry and physics. He was famous for performing experiments with very high accuracy. He was also extremely private and published very little of his work during his lifetime. Early life. Henry Cavendish was born on 10 October 1731 in Nice. He belonged to the wealthy and famous Cavendish family. His father, Lord Charles Cavendish, was also a scientist and a member of the Royal Society. His mother died when Henry was less than 2 years old. Education and personality. He attended Newcomb's School and later entered Peterhouse at Cambridge University in 1748. However, he left Cambridge without taking a degree. Cavendish was extremely shy and preferred to live a private life. He established a laboratory at his father's house and spent much of his time conducting experiments. His scientific method. Cavendish was known for his careful and precise experimental methods. He became a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1760. He worked with skilled instrument makers and used highly accurate balances and scientific instruments. His experiments were quantitative, carefully controlled, and designed to produce reproducible results. Discovery of hydrogen. In 1766, Cavendish published his work on what he called inflammable air. This was the gas we now call hydrogen. He studied the gas produced when acids reacted with certain metals. He also found that hydrogen combined with oxygen in approximately a 2-to-1 proportion to form water. Composition of water. Cavendish investigated what happens when hydrogen burns in oxygen. He found that the product was pure water. This showed that water was not an element but a compound. His work was an important step in understanding the chemical composition of water. Composition of air. Cavendish also studied atmospheric air. He used electrical sparks and carefully measured mixtures of gases. He concluded that air contained approximately 1 part oxygen and 4 parts nitrogen. He also noticed a very small amount of an unknown gas. More than a century later, this residue was identified as argon. Work on electricity. Cavendish also made important contributions to electricity. Some of his electrical experiments were not published during his lifetime. His manuscripts, published later by James Clerk Maxwell, showed that Cavendish had anticipated ideas related to what are now known as Coulomb's law and Ohm's law. Cavendish experiment. One of Cavendish's most famous experiments was performed in 1797–98. He used a sensitive torsion balance to measure the very small gravitational attraction between lead spheres. From his measurements, he calculated the Earth's average density as about 5.48 times the density of water. This was remarkably close to the modern value. Later life. Cavendish became very wealthy after inheriting 2 large fortunes. Despite his wealth, he lived a quiet and private life. He became a manager of the Royal Institution in 1800 and took interest in scientific experiments. He died on 24 February 1810, at the age of 78. Timeline. This slide summarizes the important events in Cavendish's life. He was born in 1731, entered Cambridge in 1749, became a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1760, described hydrogen in 1766, studied water and air in the 1780s, performed the famous Earth density experiment in 1798, and died in 1810. Legacy and conclusion. Henry Cavendish left a major legacy in science. The Cavendish Laboratory at the University of Cambridge was named in his honor. His unpublished manuscripts later revealed how far ahead of his time some of his scientific work was. He is remembered as a scientist who valued accuracy, careful experimentation, and scientific evidence rather than fame.